I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing folks because you have these handy bios, but Matt Cate is speaking to us, having spent a lot of time on the other side of the system, really as helping oversee and manage. It's not his current job, and I'll talk to you about that, but really, you know, if you hear what it's like from the inside and how you get out, what's it like on the outside trying to manage everything that's in there and make it as decent a place as possible. So Matt, I'll let you tell your personal story.
Sure, thank you. So when Prophet was turning 18 in the system, when I turned 18, I registered Republican and voted for Ronald Reagan. Come on, anybody? Oh, voted too! There we go! It was 1984. Come on, it was rough. And so then
That's really how you're going to start off with this story? Now you got to win them back.
Then law school, corporate law, litigator, board decided trial workers for me, and the best place to do that was the DA's office. So 1994, joined the Sacramento County DA's office and met, you get your dream job, the job that you both enjoy and that you're just naturally good at. I was really good at that job. I felt like for the first time I'd really found my place. And it was a DA's office, it was underfunded, so they gave you a ton of responsibility right up front. 1994 was also important because that's the year that the legislature and the people of California, through an initiative, passed 3 strikes. And so all of a sudden I had this tool, right, that I could use in plea bargain negotiations and then ultimately a trial and arguing sentencing, which is very powerful. And so prosecuted these cases. They came in, I prosecuted them. Prosecutors win because most of the people are guilty of something. And so it's not that hard. And the jury wants to convict. And so it was pick up this case, try this case, get this conviction, convince the judge to get the biggest sentence you could get. Then the case goes in the outbox where my assistant picks it up and takes it away along with the human being that's associated with that file, right? No idea what happened next. I was worried about the next case and doing my thing. So fast forward 8 years, Arnold Schwarzenegger is elected governor in this weird recall, right? When we had porn stars running for governor that year, all kinds of people, and so this actor wins. And because I had gone to the Attorney General's office and was a public corruption prosecutor by that time, I ended up becoming California's Inspector General. And so my job was to root out and report on waste, fraud, and abuse in the prison system. Another great job, because you go into the prison system at that time in 2004, and what we found were inmates were stacked like cordwood. They were triple bunked, which means a bunk's only about this tall, and you have 3 full-grown men stacked in that, and you picture a pretty good-sized basketball court filled with inmates everywhere you could see. And we just took a gymnasium bathroom and converted it into a bathroom for these 300-400 men, and you're on your way, right? Not enough room in the yard to exercise. The clinic space was dirty. Dentists didn't have gloves or a place to wash their hands. The people who were involved in rehabilitation, there were very few slots, but we did a study at the IG's office that showed that the recidivism rates for those in rehabilitative programming was higher than those who were left alone. That's true. It's true. At the what was called then the California Youth Authority, we were locking up children for 23 hours a day. 23-in-1 it was called at that time. It was a mess. So they went through a succession of agency secretaries. That's the person who's on the governor's cabinet and runs the prison system on behalf of the executive branch of government. They went through 4 during the time that I was the IG, and then they ran out of people. And so next thing you know, I'm running the prison system. Well, that's a really weighty responsibility because it was largely out of control. And so here's kind of the first takeaway. You realize that, as Prophet said, we're spending $10 billion a year on the most ineffective system you could have. Actually, it's a really effective system for continuing to convict people over and over and over again, right? And so we began a process of trying to reform the system, mostly by stopping the overcrowding issue. Because when prisons are overcrowded, you can't do anything with them. I don't know how many are in my generation where before there were video games on car rides, when you could ride in the backseat of the station wagon without a seatbelt, they had these little games where you would try to move tiles around until you could get numbers 1 through 15 all lined up. Well, the key to those games is you got to have a blank space. Well, in the prison system, we might know that Jim Smith needs a program in substance use disorder that's over at this prison up in Solano, and that the guy in Solano really needs to be in the college program at Ironwood, but there were no beds. And so those tiles would bump up against each other and those inmates stayed where they are. So some moves to try to address the system of overcrowding were made until about 3 years ago, Jerry Brown's elected and we get to public safety realignment. Public safety realignment, or AB 109, shifts responsibility from the prisons to jails for low-level offenders, from the state system to the county system, and shifts responsibility for supervising those offenders from state parole agents to county probation officers. So it saves the state $500 million because we gave counties about 63 cents for every dollar that I was spending on the prison system when I ran the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. We sent 60,000 inmates who would have otherwise gone to prison to county jails. And about 40,000 offenders are now supervised at the local level instead of state level. So what happens? I leave the state system, now I run the Association of Counties. And what we found is that the problems are following the offenders, right? So now jails are overcrowded. They were overcrowded before, and now they're massively overcrowded. And so we're doing, again, this catch and release program. There's not enough funding. There's not enough rehabilitation going on, although more than there was. And so here's the punchline. This system that we have, whether it's at the state level or the county level, of focusing first on a prison and an infrastructure, it's a dying system, or it should be. It's too expensive. It's $500 million to build a prison and $150 million a year to run it, right? So we now have an inelastic resource called prisons and jails. And it's inelastic because it's too expensive and it's not particularly effective at changing crime rates or recidivism rates, which is what matters to the general public. Instead, we need to shift to a focus on community corrections, to what happens before offenders enter the system, that's prevention, and then once they're through the system, how do we change into a society that focuses on reentry and rehabilitation on the outside? Because guess what? It costs about 1/10 as much to give full programming to someone who's on supervision on the outside as it does to try to do something on the inside. And here's the last point. The one thing we found did work is if you could give somebody, number one, assess a real criminogenic need, right? Whether that's family or substance use disorder, or whether it's anger management, or whether there's something else. So figure out what really the issue is, and then use an evidence-based program to address it. The last 6 months of prison matters the most, and the first 6 months on the outside, those two together, we saw massive reductions in criminality and recidivism. Do you know how often that happens in California? About this much. And so if I was going to exhort you to do something, it's focus on your local communities, focus on the folks that haven't yet hit the system or those who are already out, because it's of all the great work that's being done inside, which is vitally important, it's the most expensive and least effective place to change human beings. Now we have to do it because it's the right thing to do. You can't ignore the people that are already in prison, but for my money, it's what happens in the community that matters.